Blinkpool, the new Dota 2 betting website with mini bets throughout live streams. It's UK regulated, easy to use and with over 1 million bets already placed. Visit blinkpool.com and get started with only £5. G Nation, the community of people of all ages and creeds who create, play, watch and compete in all sorts of video games. Join the G Nation now at thegnation.com. Hello guys, I'm here with Reebs, cosplayer. Below this video you'll be able to find her social media so you can get an idea, and throughout this video I will edit it with her cosplay, Luna cosplay that she did for this event. Unfortunately today she's not wearing a costume, but this is a good thing, so I can show you the best of both worlds of a cosplayer life. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. I'm not as tired as I would be with other costumes. Luna isn't quite as challenging to wear. So I'm pretty good, just a little tired. It's fine. Looking forward to the grand finals.
Yesterday with the costume, a lot of people were asking you for pictures constantly. Do you enjoy this? I mean, obviously you should enjoy it since you're cosplaying, but is it somehow tiring, or you're just getting energized with all those positive vibes coming from people?
It's really fun, to be honest. Like when people are really excited, and some are genuinely excited to see good cosplays, it's a lot of fun. And it all depends on how nice people are. Are they actually polite, or are they really rude, which does happen at some events. But
Oh,
here everybody has been really polite, and it's very fun, yes.
so yeah, it's something that you touched. I plan to talk further into this interview about this, but let's just dive into it. How is the general acceptance for the cosplays that you're doing? Are people being rude? Are they being, um, how to say, are they pushing you for pictures? Are they trying to hug you in a not nice manner or whatever?
It really depends. The last few events I've been to, it was really no problem at all. People were so nice and so appreciative of what I do, and so I didn't have any bad experiences. There have been other events where it was quite bad. Like my very first cosplay event, that was ESA 1 Frankfurt in 2015. That was quite nasty, to
This
be
was on
honest.
the stadium? Or
Yeah, right.
okay.
So I was Draw Ranger back then. It was my very first cosplay, and there were some people who were really nice and exciting, obviously, but there's also some really bad stuff going on there, and all the cosplayers experienced that. Not even only cosplayers, also just female attendants of the event. So that was bad. But I
Was it in a
think,
way sexual abuse or?
oh yeah, stuff like that.
So how do you deal with this kind of harassment, and how are people generally accepting, and is the behavior changed in the past few years?
How to deal with it? I mean, there isn't really much you can do, to be honest. It's just, yeah, it depends. Obviously, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it. It's too hard.
Yeah, just move along then.
Maybe just I move along. There's definitely been some improvements the past few years. I think acceptance of cosplayers is definitely, yeah, higher than it was a couple of years ago. When I started, it was not as good as it is now. Um, you can see that in people. Like people come to hope for cosplayers to be at events. They're like
Hmm.
cosplay people come to events, and then they tell me that it's a bit sad that there are so few cosplayers and stuff. They came to expect that of an
Yeah.
event. A good event is like has cosplayers, and it's pretty cool for a cosplay. Just the other week I was at an event and someone messaged me, and he had never seen a cosplay in real life, never been to an event, and it was like first it was like just typical reactions like, okay, it looks good, kind of hot, whatever. And then he was like reconsidering, and then he's like, after the event, he messaged me and said like, wow, the whole atmosphere of the event changes when there are cosplayers around, and it's like brings it to life and stuff. And that really, I was like, wow, he gets it. That's exactly what we want to do as cosplayers.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. I think that wasn't really around that much in Dota specifically a couple of years ago. That's a new development, and it's great.
Okay, so we touched a little on the acceptance from people. What is the acceptance from the organizers in that sense? Do you have a good experience, a bad experience from any of them?
It's very different from organizer to organizer. In general, ESL has always been very supportive of cosplayers, especially at the German events. That's always been quite great for us. Um, 2 weeks ago we were in Poland. There wasn't that great. The Polish organizers aren't that experienced, I suppose, and also the venue maybe isn't as suitable for it. There isn't enough space for changing rooms, stuff like that. But in general, I feel they're quite supportive of cosplayers. With PGL, I mean, they just don't really. I don't really get in touch with PGL. There's not like there aren't any contests around. There is nothing. It's just I'm just here as a visitor. They don't hinder
you
us.
just buy the ticket and that's it.
Exactly. Like I just here just like everyone else, and they don't hinder us. They're not like, okay, you can't come in with. But to be honest, I haven't. This time I don't have any weapons or anything, so there's nothing. But
you just decided to come here and do the cosplay.
yeah. So there's nothing. They don't put stones in our way, but they're not helping us either.
Okay, so at this moment, probably people are able to see the cosplay that you did, the Luna, depending on how I decide to edit this video. Can you please tell us more about this one? Why did you decide to cosplay this character? How long it took you to build the costume? Did you build it from scratch? And just elaborate on the costume.
So Luna it's one of my smaller costumes. I think that's fair to say.
Smaller.
Yeah, like I worked on it for 2 months.
Only 2 months.
Only 2 months. Of course, I work full time next to it, so no, kind of have to account for that. So it's more. I haven't made props for it yet because it would have been expensive to bring them by plane and stuff like that. So it's not such a big costume. It's not made for a contest or anything. It's just, something I could bring along and be comfortable in, and even watch the event every now and then if I get around to it.
Kind of for fun in that sense?
Well,
Because you mentioned that you're not building this for a competition at the moment.
Well, I guess everything is for fun, right? But there's different kinds of fun. It's sometimes it's a pain and it can still be fun. I guess that's kind of cosplay in a nutshell. But it is a small costume, but it's actually very fun to wear. It's quite nice. Why did I choose it? Well, because it fits in a suitcase. That's one big reason. I don't know. It's hard to describe how I choose a costume. I look at every single set out there and try to come up with something that I like, a design I like, and also fits the requirements. Like for this one, I wanted something that I can transport easily, that I can put on without much help, and might actually be able to sit down in, which is rare in a costume.
Yeah. So at the moment, people should be able to see your previous costume that I stumbled upon in Hamburg on the ESL, which was the Legion Commander. Just for a comparison, how long it took you to build this particular costume, and was this one more of a competition costume? What's the idea behind it?
Legion Commander is definitely a completely different category of costume for me personally. I probably worked on it for about 6 months. Like a big costume like that, I always calculate like 500 hours of work and 500 euro in materials. And Luna is more like 150 hours and maybe 200 hours 200 euro materials. So there's quite a difference. Of course, if I build weapons and maybe a mount for Luna, which I might if I turn it into a competitive costume, then that's a different story, of course. A challenge? I don't know. Every costume has its challenges, and every cosplayer has its own strengths and weaknesses. I'm pretty bad at sewing, for example. I'm also pretty bad at working with wigs and stuff like that. So, in a way, Luna is a challenge for me because the bodysuit for me, is kind of hard. But
yeah, it's something the whole suit was something that she built herself. In that sense, if you're wondering what kind of sewing are you talking about?
Yeah, there is actually. Like, obviously, you can buy some bodysuits for some, I don't know, some Overwatch cosplay or something. It's quite easy to get those suits. Just
the Tracer one especially.
Exactly, something like that. But yeah, I mean, every cosplayer has to make up their mind themselves what if they want to do that. For me, I always try to build from scratch. So so I digitally painted the bodysuit and then had it printed, custom printed, and sewed it. Yeah.
Then you cut it and you sew it. Yep.
Yeah.
So another thing that I would like to kind of talk about, so that people are more aware of what's going on in the competitions. As you mentioned, there are two types of costumes that people build for fun purely, and for fun and competitions. So in that sense, what is the thing that people don't understand for the competitions? Because we spoke with you yesterday about this, and I want to film this in the video. Can you please elaborate what you already mentioned to me?
First of all, I mean, that's just me, right? It's just me who'd say, okay, Luna, the way I made
Yeah,
it
but
now, I wouldn't do it for a contest because I know I can do it better, right? So that's just me. So so I wouldn't be content with it. But in general, I think one thing that is very hard to understand is when you see a costume on stage, you get an overall impression, and that's great. And you can say, okay, I love that one, I don't like that one, and that's fine, right? It's like you have your favorite players, and nobody has to dispute that, right? You don't have to justify that. If you like that player, then you like that player, and that's totally fine. In a contest, of course, it's a bit of a different story. There's stuff you cannot possibly see from far away. You have to be like really close. And even if you are really close, you still have to compare to the original design to be able to have an idea of how accurate it is. Like even if you kind of think you know what Luna looks like, but like you really have to compare and like hold it next to each other to really know what's what.
So in that sense, for a competition, what people don't understand initially is that the costumes has to be as much as possible exact replica of the set that the cosplayer choose.
That is one of the goals, yeah. Then of course there's the pure craftsmanship aspect. For example, no, of course, and nobody expects that. It's totally fine. Nobody expects fans to look at a costume and be like, oh, that seam isn't quite straight, or like you know, something like that. Oh, that maybe here I can see there's some bubble in the warbler. That's a specific material that we like to use. That's not how you pick your favorite costume, right? And that's fine. But that's how a judge would pick a great costume in a contest. Is it really smooth? Is it really deep? You know, is it really
As flawless
clean?
as possible.
Exactly. So yeah, that's stuff that is hard to see, and it's also it's also a question of how difficult something is to make, and something that looks really cool might still be easier to make than some other things that maybe isn't as spectacular.
Yeah, and another thing that you mentioned is, of course, how much of the costume is made by the cosplayer itself.
Sure, yeah. But usually contests have rules that
Yeah,
you know, require you to
for
make
the
yourself.
filtering.
But there are shortcuts, of course. Like and that's fine, right? If there's an easy way to make something, you don't have to overcomplicate things, right? But oftentimes when you do small changes, that doesn't just mean it's not accurate. It also means you make a small change because then it's easier, even though it looks just as cool, and no one will ever notice. So with well, I don't much, but sometimes, like when with Luna, if I'm like, okay, I don't have much time, I just want to have a fun costume, comfortable costume, I might take those shortcuts, right? In other situations for a contest, you go the extra mile and be like, or maybe just not for a contest, just if you have the time and energy to put in it, you're like, okay, I go the extra mile, I make my own mold, I don't just buy it off the shelf and make my whatever gem, whatever. Then it's still handmade because I made the gem, but I took a shortcut.
Yeah, you just use the bought mod.
Exact, and that's fine. But of course, it makes a difference in a contest, and that's just how not being completely accurate often makes making costumes easier.
Yeah, and this is just a good perspective to show for the people that are not aware how cosplay works that it's really important the costume to be as accurate as possible, first of all, as well made as possible, and of course, big portion of it should be made. Well, not really big portion of it, but pretty much everything on the costume should be made by the cosplayer. And this is something that you cannot you cannot kind of catch when you see a costume on your screen or just walking near to the cosplayer. And oftentimes this is kind of putting the audience in a sense that a particular cosplayer has been robbed when there is a competition. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's very hard to say something like that. I mean, of course, it's fun, and always just get out the pitchforks and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
kill them.
but like often when I'm at a contest, I'm not even able to have an opinion because when I'm in costume, I often don't have the chance to look at the other costumes as closely, right? So, and even if I see them and if I have some experience, and I usually see if there are some, I see the flaws obviously in their craftsmanship. Some I might not see because I'm not close enough, because I'm wearing crazy contact lenses and can't see well enough. But I don't have the design next to it. I can't compare. So I may not actually not be able to make a real call on it. Also, don't want to because it's the judge's job, not mine. But at the same time, I think it's, yeah, people have their favorites, and that's fine, right? You should have that, and it's also cool to just have a really spectacular costume or just a very cute costume, and that's fine. And people like different things. It's hard to put it together with a contest situation. So what other communities do, other cosplay communities do, is have a judge's decision in a contest, but also at the same time have audience decision, like just like a separate, like a fan favorite, right?
Contest, yeah.
Which is completely separate. You just have different prizes, and usually judges is like the main prize, but you also have a fan favorite, and I think that's a very nice thing to do, because that is a part of cosplay. It's not all about how accurate and how many hours and whatever.
You have to be entertaining for the audience.
Exactly, it's also about the audience and what they like, and I think that's perfectly fine. It's just not the same thing. So yeah, that's maybe one thing.
Yeah, people have to be aware of this.
Exactly, that it's not always so easy to, even if you're like really sure that this is the best, then yeah, pick it as your favorite. Tell the cosplayer how great they are. You don't have to tell them how bad everyone else
Be
is.
supportive, guys. This is the most important thing. If you see a cosplayer, if you see a content creator, whatever, just walk up to them, shake their hands, tell them your opinion, be honest. But don't be rude. Don't be rude. Be honest.
Don't be rude. If you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all.
Because
you don't have to care about cosplay, right? There's no one's forcing you to take pictures or whatever. Not at all. You really don't have to care. But if you do, it's always nice to know.
Don't be disrespectful to cosplayers, and don't be sexist. Don't abuse them sexually or whatever. They are just normal human beings, as you can see, like me, like her. So keep this in mind, and of course, as I mentioned, be supportive. This is super important in our community in order to go forward as a unit, in my opinion. Of course, share your comments if you agree or disagree with me. Have another question. We have to wrap this up because it's taking a lot of time. I didn't expect actually that it will be such a long interview.
I want to watch grand final finally without costume. I can watch some games.
The finals are going at the moment, but we decided to shoot this interview now. You mentioned that you're building your cosplays in your off time, in your spare time. What are you doing for a living?
Right. I mean, I have a degree in philosophy and Islamic studies, but right now I just do office work, stuff like that.
Just office work. So
yeah, nothing exciting.
Pretty much, as I mentioned, absolutely normal people, like
way too normal. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone else out there. So keep this in mind, guys, when you reach out to a person that is involved in those type of things. So. Any final words, any shout outs that you would like to make to all the viewers, to all of your millions, billions fans that you have? I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure, yes.
I'm pretty sure that you have more than a few millions, judging by the lines that were standing next to you waiting for a picture. Don't try to over. Forgot the word. Whatever. Just keep.
Okay. Actually, there is a shout out I'd like to make because sometimes it's really hard to, no, actually it's quite impossible to cosplay on your own because you don't even have a place to put your phone. You can't walk around. Luna is fine, but other cosplays are hard. So I really want to give a shout out to every cosplayer and every friend who's helped me in the past. This time it's Kipspo, Vegas coach, which is great. So kind of lucky that they dropped out of the tournament. Sorry about that, guys. But,
sorry, Gibbs.
But everybody who's helped me in the past, Rachel Thinking, Marugito Cosplay, they're all great people and they've been supportive of me. And of course, that's a cosplay thing. We try to be supportive of each other, most of them, anyway. And that's just great. So shout out to them, everyone I haven't mentioned by name. It's very appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much for this interview. I hope that you enjoy this event, just the few games that are left of it. I hope that you guys enjoy this, not so quick interview. I hope that you were able to get a better understanding.
You can edit it.
Yeah, I hope that you were able to get a better understanding of what a cosplayer is in real life and how cosplay works in general. If you have any other question, of course, feel free to post it in the comments. Feel free to reach her in our social medias that you can find in the description of this video. And of course, make sure to go and like all of her pictures and stalk her in the social media.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a cat?
Yes.
Cat.
Cool.
Which one is more beautiful? I have a guess.
Excuse me?
I have a guess.